a shadow of things to come, the appointed times of Yahweh. Therefore let no one judge you in food or in drink, or in respect of a feast, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbaths, for these are a shadow of things to come. Section 1.1 Introduction. Forget all you know. It sounds extremely pretentious to begin this study by saying, forget all you know or think you know. However, it is what I've learned to do. Every time I approach a new teaching, I try very hard to start fresh. I listen to the teaching with an open mind, and when I hear something that doesn't seem right, I ask myself the following question. Does this actually contradict the Bible, or do I just believe that it does? I have discovered that you can even learn a lot from listening to a false teaching, but only if it pushes you to go back to the Bible and find the truth. I spent most of my adult life moving around. With each move came a new church, and with each church came new or sometimes different teachings. Most were minute details that weren't particularly important, but one church actually taught that Jesus was just a man. I was young still, but strong enough in my faith to know that this was not true. Eventually, I took a year off from church, and I delved deeply into the Bible. I discovered that many things I learned in church were not biblically accurate. I don't believe that most of my pastors and Sunday school teachers were purposely misleading me. They were merely handing down teachings and traditions which they themselves had been taught. Here are some examples. The 7 deadly sins, greed, sloth, etc., are not actually listed in the Bible. There is, however, a passage in Proverbs which speaks of the 7 things which Yahweh hates, but these are not the same sins. There are also 2 angelic, female beings described in the Bible. In Zechariah 5, 2 women with wings like a stork are flying and carrying out the will of Yahweh. Most shocking of all, heaven is not our eternal home. We will spend eternity on the new earth, in the new Jerusalem which comes down out of heaven. The more that I read the Bible, the more discrepancies I noticed between what I thought the Bible said and what it did say. Some teachings were simply not in the Bible at all, while others were used out of context. There are also things in the Bible which I had never heard from any pulpit. For example, that Elisha's bones brought a dead man back to life in 2 Kings 13, or the angels that God has locked away in chains and darkness until the judgment in 2 Peter 2 and the book of Jude, or the horrific story of the concubine and the tribe of Benjamin in Judges 19 and 20, along with most of the book of Judges, with the exception of Deborah, Samson, and Gideon. There came a point in my life where I just wanted to learn what was true. This is what I hope to share with you. This study takes an in-depth look at timelines, set times, and the end times. But it also covers why Jesus actually had to die. It wasn't just a dramatic statement of love or simple act of substitution. There's a mechanism of grace which enables us to be saved that is more akin to a cure. We also look at why God had to destroy certain bloodlines at different times to ensure salvation for all people. And we'll learn who will not be overtaken as if by a thief at the rapture. If you are a church person or know someone who is, then you already know that there are prophecies which say Jesus is going to return. There are potentially 2 more times when he will come back. Many believe in an event called the Rapture, which biblically means to be caught up. At this event, it is believed that all true believers will be caught away to heaven before the wrath of God is poured out on the earth. If this is a true biblical event, there are a few difficulties to overcome, specifically the difference between wrath and tribulation, and we will begin to examine them in chapter 3. One thing is clear. There will be a turbulent period on the earth after which Jesus will come again. This is often called the second coming. Jesus will return to the earth and fight a battle at Armageddon. He will then rule in Jerusalem for 1,000 years. We will begin digging into the Bible in the next part, chapter 1.2. But I have a few notes I want to make before we go any further. On biblical chronology. The chronology I will be using for all dates discussed in the study can be found at www.abdicate.net. I recommend reading the pages, which show how the dates were found in the Bible. It is as fascinating as it is educational, especially the page on the life of Jesus. All dates and ages are taken from the Masoretic version of the Bible, as opposed to the Septuagint. I use this version originally because it is the Bible most are familiar with and accept. But after seeing how perfectly it lines up with the prophecy of weeks made by Enoch and a 50-count Jubilee year, I am certain that it is the right text for ages and timings. We will look at both the Book of Enoch and Jubilees much later in this study, along with 11 other confirmations. Bible quotations. Unless otherwise stated, I quote from the modern King James Version of the Bible. It is simply my personal favorite. I have sometimes added underlinings or bold print for emphasis, and words in square brackets for clarification. Please note that these are my additions and not in the original translation. Occasionally I use the contemporary English version marked as CEV throughout, when the passage in the modern King James is particularly difficult to understand. The name of God. Throughout this book I use the name Yahweh for God. It is simply one translation of the personal name for God which was given to Moses in Exodus 6:3. There are much better translations for this name. However, Yahweh is best known, and this is why I chose it. I like to use a personal name because God, Lord, or Master is what God is, while Yahweh is who He is. A caution regarding dates and numbers. Dates and numbers in the Bible have sometimes been misused or distorted. We have all heard predictions stating the exact return of Jesus or the end of the world. Often these are based off a single passage in the Bible and correlated to a modern event. This study has a much wider focus, taking the Bible as a whole. This is not to say that I think we should disregard the numbers that God has put into the Bible. He included them in Scripture for a reason. Many good people who love God and the Bible have tried to predict the end. It can feel discouraging to see predicted dates come and go. Nevertheless, we should not be discouraged that countless good, Bible-believing, Spirit-filled people have been attempting to understand the end times. When God is revealing His heart to His people, it often feels powerful and imminent. It is so easy to get caught up and begin looking for that fulfillment immediately. Making a false prophecy in God's name is wrong, but making a guess and being mistaken is not. We should look at the overall pattern. The number of Christians who believe that we are living in the end times is increasing, and has been for many years. This is good. It shows that it is not just a few overzealous people who are looking for signs, but a steadily growing awareness in the hearts of those who love God. Numerous end-time signs are coming to pass. Just because there have been errors in past interpretations does not mean God will never reveal His timings. He often only reveals what we need to know in our present or imminent circumstances. As the final days approach, I am certain understanding will grow clearer. It is crucial that we employ caution when looking at dates and numbers in the Bible, because they are most useful for identifying fulfilled prophecy. For example, the 7 sevens and 62 sevens in Daniel, often translated as weeks, represent 69 groups of 7 years, or 483 years. They were a countdown to the Messiah's death, which is easy to see in hindsight, but more difficult, though not impossible, to predict ahead of time. However, employing caution does not mean that we should avoid all of Yahweh's prophetic and scriptural numbers. The Hebrew word moed, meaning appointed time or set time, is used over 200 times in the Old Testament. Many numbers and events are used in prophecy along with this word. God gave us these numbers, and it is okay to look at them and the patterns that they create. This is not specifically a study of Revelation, though I do quote from that book often. This study is full of scripture and focuses on huge patterns and images that occur repeatedly in the Bible. Much of this book focuses on the first books of the Bible. In Isaiah, Yahweh tells us, "Remember former things from forever, for I am God and no other is God, even none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from the past, things which were not done, saying, My purpose shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." God's plans were complete from the beginning. We see this theme again in the book of Revelation 13. "And all dwelling on the earth will worship it, the beast, those whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world." The dates that I use in this study, from creation to the death of Jesus, are from a well-researched biblical chronology, but may not be perfect. Only God's plan is perfect. This book is meant to be an introduction to these appointed times and to encourage the people of God to study His Word for themselves and discover truth. If after reading this book you feel that you know the exact date of the rapture or return of Messiah, then I have failed in my intentions. Noah did not know the exact day of the flood until 7 days before it began. On the other hand, he did know it was coming. The dates are used to make a cohesive picture and to compare different timelines in the Bible. Let me explain my concerns with 2 examples. If you choose a date and it is a little before the rapture, the day may come and go, and your faith will be weakened, or worse, destroyed completely, because the event you waited for did not happen. If you choose a date that is slightly after the rapture, the day will arrive and you will not be found watching. Look at the dates in this book as a guideline and begin your own search for the coming Messiah in Scripture.